Welcome to my new playlist on totally on Angular 2.0. So in this video series we will try to explore more onto the Angular 2, Angular 4, what are the different changes has been done. So this is for beginner to the advanced level. I will be covering each and every topic in a detailed way. So my target is from the training perspective, these videos will be helpful to get started with Angular 2.0 and started writing. So we will also start an application, some demo application. We will build that application from the scratch. Okay. So this is a little bit about myself. I'm Angular 2 trainer and I provide a lot of different trainings on webinars on YouTube's. Okay. So let's build something from the scratch. Today's agenda is we will talk about Angular 2 overview. Angular 2 router we can take a look on to the second session. So first we will try to get familiar with Angular 2.0. So we already have Angular 4 and a lot of new things are being added in the 2 and 4. But still there is no any breaking changes has been done in Angular 4. I will suggest like we should not use these Angular 2 or 4 prefix. We can say that this is Angular new version. Okay. So we will talk about web standards. Angular 2 has incorporated web standards, web components. It is fast track, full stack, and it is powered by Typescript. Right. So web standards are friendly. So whatever the web standards which we are going to use, they are friendly with ES6. We using web workers, decorators, using TypeScript, observables, zones, fetch APIs, and web components. Right. So these are actually some of the features of Angular 2.0. Angular 2 is using web components. Angular 2.0 using RxJS reactive programming with the observables. Jones.js for the change detections. It is using the TypeScript annotation decorators. It's also using ES6 plus TypeScript. We already know about that. And we are using web component. Everything is just a simple web component like this. So here we will be rendering this component with this app profile tag, and we are passing some data. So with the help of input annotation, this is the annotation, right? These are the metadata decorators which we are using with the help of TypeScript. So with the help of this input annotations, I'm able to capture the value of name in this child component, right? So this template can be part of another root component from where we are sending the name, and here we are handling the name in the input annotation, right? So this name will be rendered like this. So this is just a way of how we are passing the data from one component to another component, right? So this is app profile that might be being used somewhere else in another component. Here I'm passing the name Laco, and this is being rendered like this. Okay. So template syntax, template is just a simple HTML which you can write inside these backticks characters, the complete HTML syntax, whatever you wanted to do. And here I'm doing the property binding. I'm passing these values, names, and role. So this name I'm passing from here, role is main. So this is a simple example of property binding, and the previous example was the example of interpolation. So here I'm interpolating the value of name. So you can also have some kind of event handling. So there are three different kind of a thing: interpolation, populating the value; property binding, sending the value in the template; and event handling, triggering some kind of event from your template. So like I'm triggering on click event from here. Okay. So one of the thing is the Angular application has a smart change detector, and it's like the rendering performance has been a lot of improvised. So like here, this is my profile component, maybe the root component, and I can have this child component, and using this property binding and input annotations, I'm sending this name property to my child component. Okay. So what are the official packages which we will be using? Angular Core, Angular Compile, Angular Forms, Angular HTTP, Angular Router, Angular Browser Dynamic, Angular Platform Browser Dynamic. These are actually some official packages which you need to have for your Hello World application. Angular Router if you are using routing, Angular HTTP if you are using some HTTP services to talk to backend, Angular Forms if you are using ng model to be data binding, then use it, or writing the Angular Forms. Okay. So let's talk about TypeScript. TypeScript has been added for the static type checking. It is using the decorators, or it's a type-based dependency injection, right? So it's a superset. If you're writing ES6, it's built on top of ES6, so you can easily use it. And we need to use a TypeScript transpiler to transpile the ES6 plus TypeScript to ES5 code, right? So these are the decorators. So decorators are actually next generation standards which we are using. So we are using annotations, a lot of decorators we are using. And the annotations, component, input, output, injectables, these all are annotations. And the DI, type-based dependency injections, whatever we are injecting in the constructor, we are defining the type for it. So it's a type-based dependency injection. So now we don't have $HTTP. We will be using the HTTP service from Angular HTTP module, right? So what are the final APIs? Component, input, output, directives, pipe, ng modules, injectables. These are actually basic APIs which you will be using in different building blocks of Angular 2. Component, input, output, you can be a part of component. Directive when you are creating a directive. Pipe whenever you are creating some kind of a pipe in Angular 2 for filter. Ng model when you are defining a root module. Annotation injectable you will be using when you are creating a service, right? So annotation component is nothing but it's just a combination of a component, template plus directive. Directive, we will also be creating directive. Directive is only deal with the behavior of a component, like changing the styles, updating some kind of a DOM. That is a directive. But when you add some kind of a template to it, that becomes a component. So directive in Angular 1.x is different from directive in Angular 2. Directive in Angular 1.x represents some kind of a template which it's rendering, but here that is replaced by component. So only directive is only limited to the changing the behavior, but component here is a combinations of directives and a template. Here we are also having the CSS encapsulation. If in the component, if you are writing some CSS that is limited, that is bind or that is emulated to only that component, it's not available outside this component. It will be applied only to this component. Okay. So here let's talk about top-down data. From parent to child we are sending data. So we will be using annotation input. Okay. So here this is the parent component, consider, and here we are sending the name property to my profile component. So this is my profile component. I just need to annotate it name with the annotation input and I can capture it. So this is the top to down approach where I'm sending the data from top to down, right? So this is how we will be sending the data from top component to the child component. Then the reverse is the component tree, bottom to up event system. So in Angular 2 we have annotation input and annotation output. Annotation input is to send the data downstream, annotation output to send an event from down to up. Okay, like something like this. So we have annotation output here for this select event, right? So this is the parent component and this is the child component. Here we have the on select, we are just firing on menu select event, right? So this event is defined in your child component and you have defined already an event emitter for this select event, right? So whenever you are just selecting something, then this dot select dot emit, we need to emit that event here and we are sending the menu item which you can capture in the parent component. So for this we need to use the event emitter first of all, and for that event, for that select menu event, we need to trigger an event, or emit an event with the data. So this is the bottom up build system. We have this parent and child. So child component is defined here. From the child we are emitting an event with the data, right? So the select event is defined here. So select is assigned with the event emitter. So whenever you are doing on menu select, we are sending the data. Directive. So directive is just a component without template. That's a definition. So most probably the directive we are defining just to change the style, to listen some particular event on the DOM, right? So here if you are just adding this particular button primary, so this is a particular directive. So in Angular 1.x also we are using three different kind of a directive: class, attribute, element. Here also we are just using it as an attribute directive, and what this is doing, this is adding this class name button primary to the particular DOM node. If you see, This is the directive definition, and it is doing a binding. So button primary is doing a binding of a class attribute with these different classes. Okay, pipe is actually we are using to transform the data, right? So we can use the pipe. So this is a simple pipe. So you need to have this transform method, and you need to also implement a pipe transform from this Angular core library. So pipe is applied with the same pipe symbol. So what it will do, it will update the message with these quotes. These quotes will be added in the message, right? So Angular 2 architecture is simple. We have complete applications. There will be one root module. We have the component. We will have a directives, and we have a services which will have an injector. So injector, we will inject the dependency in the component. Component will talk to the directives, right? So directives and pipe are inside the component. Component will be inside a root module that will be bootstrapped with the platform browser dynamic, and that is a complete application, right? So application configurations, what we need to do, we need to import other modules, we need to create a compiler, set up an injector, and we need to bootstrap our hello world application. So this is my root module. But in the root module, I have this is a root module, and every applications need to have a root module where we are combining all the things together. We are defining what are the services we are using, we are defining what are the components we are using, we are defining what are the different third-party modules we are using. Okay, so application environment, we are using ahead of time compiler, just in time compiler, a lot of different things comes into the picture whenever we are compiling the code in Angular 2.0. Okay, so what are the different bootstrap platform we are using? We are importing platform browser dynamic, platform web worker if you are using, and platform server if we are using this kind of functionality. Okay, so this is just about simple application development process. In the next session, in the next webcast, we will talk about more about routing and different features of Angular. So in this playlist, I will be covering these core concepts in a single slide. Then I will be talking about simple application development.